The house was too quiet for a Tuesday afternoon. Claire Whitman stepped inside her waterfront home in Marin County, California, the door closing behind her with a soft, unfamiliar echo. She hadn't planned to be home yet. A meeting had been canceled. Traffic was light. For once, life had given her an early return. Sunlight spilled through the tall glass windows, illuminating the living room she had designed herself. Neutral tones, clean lines, everything in its place. Everything. Except one thing. On the center of the cream-colored sofa rested a woman's coat. Not hers. It was elegant. Dark wool. Still warm as if it had been taken off minutes ago. Claire stood frozen, her handbag slipping slightly from her shoulder, her breath shallow. Her mind raced through possibilities, excuses, explanations, but none of them felt solid enough to stand on. Her husband, a self-made millionaire, was supposed to be out of town. No staff was scheduled. No guests were expected. And yet, there it was, a silent object heavy with questions. Claire didn't scream. She didn't move. She simply stared, feeling the weight of something shifting inside her, trust, certainty, maybe even the life she thought she understood. What would you do if you walked into your home and found proof that didn't belong to you? How would you react in that moment of silence? If this happened to you, what would your very first words be? Stay with us until the end, because you'll be asked to answer those questions yourself. Claire Whitman let the door click shut behind her, then stood perfectly still, as if any movement might make the scene collapse or rearrange itself into something easier to understand. The coat remained where it was, draped over the arm of the sofa, its sleeves folded with casual familiarity. Whoever had left it hadn't rushed. That detail settled heavily in her chest. She set her handbag down on the entry table with deliberate care. The marble surface felt cold under her fingertips, grounding her for a moment. Her eyes drifted across the living room, everything immaculate, controlled, untouched. No signs of chaos. No overturned cushions. No forgotten glass. Just the coat. That was what frightened her most. Claire moved closer. The fabric was high-quality wool, charcoal gray, tailored in a way that suggested confidence. It wasn't flashy. It was expensive without trying to be. She brushed her fingers against the sleeve, then pulled her hand back as if she'd touched something alive. Her mind began its frantic inventory. Her husband had mentioned a last-minute trip. New York, maybe Chicago. She couldn't remember which, and that omission irritated her now. He'd kissed her cheek that morning, distracted but not unusual. No tension, no awkwardness. Or had there been? She replayed the memory, searching for cracks. The house itself seemed to listen as she walked through it. The faint hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of a lawn sprinkler outside. Everything normal. Too normal. Claire glanced toward the hallway that led to the bedrooms. She didn't go there. Not yet. Instead, she walked to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water, though her hands trembled enough to spill a few drops onto the counter. She didn't drink it. She just stood there, staring at the reflection of the living room in the polished steel of the refrigerator door. The sofa appeared distorted, but the coat was unmistakable. She thought of all the small moments she had brushed aside over the past months. The late calls taken in another room, the sudden protectiveness over his phone, the way he'd seemed elsewhere even when sitting beside her. None of it had been proof. Until now. Or was this proof? Claire straightened her shoulders. Jumping to conclusions had never been her way. She had built a life on patience, observation, restraint. Still, her heart beat faster with each second she delayed acting. She checked the time. Too early to call him without sounding suspicious. Too late to pretend she hadn't seen it. A decision pressed against her ribs. She returned to the living room, sat down slowly on the opposite end of the sofa, and stared at the coat as if it might speak. As if it might offer an explanation she could accept. But the house stayed silent. And for the first time in years, Claire wondered if the life she trusted so completely had already begun to slip out of her control. Quietly, neatly. Without asking, Claire rose from the sofa with a steadiness that surprised even her. The shock hadn't disappeared, but it had settled into something colder, more focused. She picked up the coat carefully, as if it might leave fingerprints on her thoughts, and carried it toward the hallway. The guest bathroom door was slightly ajar. That too felt wrong. Inside, everything looked clean, almost staged. The hand towel was folded differently than she usually left it. The soap pump turned at an angle. Small things, easy to miss, impossible to ignore once seen. Claire set the coat over the back of the chair and stared at her own reflection in the mirror. Her face looked composed, but her eyes betrayed a question she wasn't ready to ask out loud. She opened the medicine cabinet. Nothing unfamiliar. No makeup. No perfume. A strange relief washed over her, quickly followed by disappointment. She didn't know which emotion scared her more. Her phone vibrated. Claire flinched before checking the screen. A message from Lena, her neighbor across the cul-de-sac. Saw a car in your driveway earlier. Thought you were traveling. Everything okay? Claire read it twice, then a third time. A car. Not his, not hers. She typed back slowly. Must have been a delivery. Thanks for checking. The lie felt clumsy, but necessary. She wasn't ready to let anyone else step into this moment. Not yet. Claire walked to the front window and peeked through the sheer curtains. The street looked peaceful. Perfect lawns, identical mailboxes, a pair of joggers passing by as if nothing in the world had shifted. She tried to imagine another woman pulling into the driveway, parking with confidence, walking up the path like she belonged there. The image tightened her chest. She checked the security app on her phone. The cameras covered the driveway and front door, installed after a break-in scare years ago. Her finger hovered over the screen. If she opened the footage, there would be no turning back. Seeing would mean knowing. Claire locked the phone and set it face down on the counter. Not yet. Instead, she moved through the house again, slower this time. The master bedroom was untouched. The closet exactly as she'd left it. No foreign scent, no displaced hanger. That should have comforted her. It didn't. In the study, his desk was immaculate. Too immaculate. His laptop was gone. So was the leather notebook he carried everywhere. He'd taken them with him, or with someone. Claire sat in his chair, the leather cool against her skin, and let herself breathe. She thought about the years they'd built together, the risks they'd taken, the promises whispered late at night when money was still uncertain and everything felt possible. Another vibration. This time it was him. Landing soon. Call you when I'm settled. Claire stared at the message. The timing felt cruel, convenient. She imagined his voice, calm, affectionate, practiced. She could call now, demand answers, or she could wait. She looked toward the hallway where the coat rested, silent and patient. For the first time, Claire realized the question wasn't whether something had happened. It was how much she was willing to see before she chose what to do next. Claire didn't call him back. She left the phone on the kitchen counter and stepped outside instead, letting the late afternoon air hit her face. The bay breeze carried the scent of salt and freshly cut grass, a familiar comfort that failed to calm her. From the porch, she could see the driveway clearly. Empty now. Clean. No trace of the car Lena had mentioned. That absence felt deliberate. Claire walked to the end of the driveway, as if distance might give her perspective. She remembered choosing this house because of how open it felt, how the light moved through it from morning to evening. Transparency had mattered to her. It still did. When she returned inside, she picked up her phone again. This time, she opened the security app. The footage loaded slowly, each second stretching. She selected the time window from earlier that afternoon. Her heart pounded as the video began to play. At first, nothing happened. Then, a dark sedan pulled into the driveway. Not a delivery truck, not a rideshare. It parked with ease, like it had done so before. Claire leaned closer to the screen, her breath shallow. A woman stepped out. She was around Claire's age, maybe slightly younger. Well-dressed, confident. She didn't hesitate at the door. She walked straight up, unlocked it using the keypad, and disappeared inside. Claire paused the video. The keypad. Her stomach dropped. They'd agreed never to share that code with anyone else. It had been a boundary, spoken lightly but meant seriously. A small promise, now shattered with a single number sequence. Claire skipped ahead. The woman reappeared about 40 minutes later, pulling on the same coat now resting in Claire's hallway. She paused on the porch, took a call, laughed at something said on the other end, then drove away. No rush, no guilt visible, just ease. Claire set the phone down slowly, her fingers numb. So this was real. She sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at nothing. Her thoughts didn't race anymore. They lined up one behind the other, demanding to be acknowledged. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was quiet, methodical, and deeply personal. Her phone buzzed again. "Just got to the hotel," his message read. "Miss you." Claire closed her eyes. She imagined confronting him immediately, his excuses, his polished explanations. She imagined him minimizing, reframing, turning this into a misunderstanding. He was good with words. He always had been. But she wasn't ready to give him that stage. Instead, Claire stood, walked to the hallway, and picked up the coat. She held it for a moment, then placed it carefully on the dining table, right in the center. Visible. Impossible to ignore. She texted him back. "Call me when you have time." No accusation, no emotion. She wanted to hear his voice when he realized the moment he thought he controlled was no longer his. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the room, Claire understood something with startling clarity. Whatever happened next would change everything. And this time, she would decide how the story moved forward. The phone rang 10 minutes later. Claire watched it vibrate on the table beside the coat, the screen lighting up with his name. For a brief moment, she considered letting it go to voicemail, letting him sit with uncertainty the way she had all afternoon. But control wasn't about delay. It was about presence. She answered. "Hey," he said, his voice smooth, familiar. "Everything okay? You sounded serious." "I came home early," Claire replied. She kept her tone even, almost casual. "There's something here that doesn't belong to me." A pause. Just half a second too long. "What do you mean?" he asked. Claire looked at the coat. "There's a woman's coat on our sofa, one I've never seen before." Silence stretched between them. She could hear distant sounds on his end. An elevator ding. Muffled voices. The sterile echo of a hotel lobby. Then a breath. "Claire," he began. "This isn't what you think." She almost smiled. Almost. "I watched the security footage," she said calmly. "I saw her arrive. I saw her use the keypad." This time, the silence was unmistakable. He exhaled slowly. "Okay, let me explain." She let him talk. He told her a story, measured, careful. A colleague, someone passing through town. A conversation that went too far. A mistake that didn't mean anything. He said it hadn't been planned. He said it was over. He said he hadn't wanted to hurt her. Claire listened without interrupting, noting how he framed everything as accidental, temporary, contained, as if the damage could be neatly boxed and stored away. When he finished, he waited. "Is that all?" she asked. "Yes," he said quickly. "I swear." Claire stood and walked toward the front door, staring out at the quiet street. "Then why does she have the code?" Another pause. "She asked," he said. "I didn't think—" "That's enough," Claire interrupted. Her voice wasn't raised, but it carried weight. "I don't need more details." She ended the call before he could respond. For the first time since walking into the house, Claire felt something close to anger. Not explosive, not wild, but sharp and clarifying. She wasn't shocked anymore. She was awake. She carried the coat upstairs and placed it gently inside the guest room closet. Then she closed the door. That night, she slept alone in the master bedroom, staring at the ceiling as memories replayed themselves with new meaning. Every late night, every canceled plan, every moment she'd chosen trust over doubt. By morning, she knew one thing for certain. Confronting the truth was only the beginning. Deciding what to do with it would be harder. Claire woke just before sunrise, the room still wrapped in a pale blue hush. For a moment, she forgot. Then the weight returned. Not as shock, but as certainty. Nothing about yesterday had been a misunderstanding, and nothing about today would be simple. She got out of bed quietly, as if he might somehow be there, sleeping beside her. The space felt larger without him. Honest. She stood by the window and watched the neighborhood wake up. Garage doors lifting, lights turning on, ordinary lives continuing uninterrupted. That normalcy steadied her. In the kitchen, she made coffee and sat at the table where the coat had been hours earlier. The empty space felt intentional now. She had moved it, not to hide it, but to decide when and how it would matter again. Her phone buzzed. A message from him. "I'm coming home tonight. We need to talk in person." Claire stared at the screen, then placed the phone face down. She already knew what he wanted, a chance to explain himself better, to soften the edges, to reclaim control of the narrative. What she wanted was clarity. She spent the morning doing things she had postponed for years. She called her financial advisor and scheduled a meeting. She reviewed documents she'd once trusted without reading closely. She walked through the house with a notebook, listing what was hers, what was shared, what she had helped build but never claimed. None of it felt vengeful. It felt grounding. In the afternoon, she drove to the shoreline and sat in her car, watching the water move in steady, patient rhythms. She thought about the woman from the video, not with jealousy, but with curiosity. What had she been promised? How had the truth been framed for her? Claire realized that betrayal rarely existed in isolation. It spread outward, quietly, touching people who never agreed to be part of it. When she returned home, she placed the coat back where it had been found, on the sofa. Not as an accusation, but as a marker. Proof that denial would no longer be an option. He arrived just after dusk. Claire heard the door open, his familiar footsteps hesitating as he noticed the coat. He didn't speak at first. Neither did she. The silence felt different now. No longer heavy, but deliberate. "I was going to tell you," he said finally. Claire turned to face him. "When?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. The answer wasn't ready because it didn't exist. They sat across from each other, not touching. He apologized again, this time less rehearsed, more uncertain. He talked about pressure, loneliness, ego, about losing himself. Claire listened, but something inside her had shifted. His words no longer rearranged her reality. When he finished, he looked at her, waiting, for forgiveness, for direction, for reassurance that this rupture could be repaired if he said the right things. Claire spoke slowly. "I believe you're sorry," she said. "But I don't believe this was a moment. It was a choice. And choices have consequences." Tears filled his eyes. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away, but she didn't hold on either. "I need time," she continued. "Not to punish you, to hear myself think." He nodded, defeated, but quiet. That night, he slept in the guest room. Claire lay awake again, but this time her thoughts were clear. She wasn't deciding the end yet. She was reclaiming the middle, the part where her voice mattered, where her future wasn't shaped by someone else's secrecy. Whatever came next would be hers to choose. And for the first time since walking into that house early, Claire felt something unexpected beneath the hurt. Strength. Claire never shouted. She never made a scene. There were no dramatic ultimatums or rushed decisions. What happened instead was quieter and far more powerful. She faced the truth when it appeared in the most ordinary form, a coat that didn't belong to her, resting in a space she believed was safe. From that moment on, every step she took was about reclaiming clarity, not control. She listened, she observed, she chose patience over panic, self-respect over denial. Her husband's betrayal wasn't just about another woman. It was about broken boundaries, misplaced trust, and the slow realization that love alone doesn't protect a relationship from secrecy. Claire didn't decide the final outcome right away, but she did something just as important. She chose herself. She chose to pause, to reflect, and to understand what she truly wanted before allowing anyone else to define her future. Whether this story ends in reconciliation or separation is something only she can determine. And that uncertainty, that space where a decision is still forming, is where real strength often lives. Now, it's your turn. Would you have reacted the same way Claire did? If you found undeniable proof in your own home, would you confront it immediately? Or take time to process the truth? Do you think Claire made the right choice by asking for space instead of answers? What would you do in her place? Before you leave, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your honest thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to vote in the poll. Your perspective is part of this story too.